In my introduction, I told you about June Almeida and David Tyrell, who demonstrated that 229E and OC43 were both coronaviruses known to cause what we know and have all experienced as the common cold. Now, not to belittle the common cold, nor these two viruses, but for 35 years, human coronaviruses were not considered much of a threat. Not until 2002. Then we learned differently. Early one November morning, Huang Jingcha, a young 34-year-old chef, was making his way through a crowded live animal market in Shenzhen. Today, he was especially excited because he would be preparing the house specialty, dragon tiger phoenix soup, a delicacy of Guangdong province, a luscious mixture of snake, chicken, and civet cat. He carefully examined the civet cat carcass, prodding the meat with his thumb, thinking that he'd better go fresh. The meatmonger swiftly killed the animal and cleaned the carcass while Huang Jingcha licked his thumb as he counted out the bills, not before he added a few more snakes to his purchase and was off. The meal was a huge success. However, on November 10, the young chef developed a high fever and was admitted to the local hospital with what seemed to be pneumonia. His situation did not improve, so he was transferred to the Memorial Hospital in Guangzhou. Despite all efforts, the young chef never recovered. It was clear he succumbed to some new, unexplainable disease, and obviously contagious, as he'd infected a total of 21 medical staff, including Professor Liu Jianlun, a 64-year-old lung specialist. Not long after this event, Professor Liu began to show symptoms himself, fever and difficulty breathing. On February 21, however, he seemed to be feeling better, and so he and his wife took the bus to Hong Kong to attend the wedding of his nephew. The couple checked into the Metropole Hotel, room 911. Unfortunately, the following morning, Professor Liu woke up feverish with a hacking cough. He was really ill, and so he checked himself into the hospital, never to recover. He died on March 4th. As it turns out, during his single night at the Metropole, Liu, apparently having a coughing attack in the hallway, infected 6 guests, all residents of the 9th floor, 3 from Singapore, 2 from Canada, and a Chinese-American businessman. All of the above went on to globally spread the network of death. By July 2003, some 8,000 people in 29 countries were infected with what came to be known as severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS-CoV. 774 people had died. Half of the infected, especially those in Canada, Singapore, Vietnam, China, and Hong Kong, could be contact traced back to Professor Liu and his stay at the Metropole Hotel. SARS is a beta coronavirus that spilled over to humans from masked palm civet cats. In an effort to curb the pandemic, the Chinese shut down markets and in a massive culling action destroyed over 10,000 civet cats. However, as it turns out, civet cats are only a transient intermediate host responsible for spillover to humans. The natural reservoir host is bats. Bats are known to harbor hundreds of different coronaviruses, many of which have spilled over to numerous mammals. In the case of SARS-CoV, horseshoe bats have been proposed to be the most likely source of this pandemic. SARS-CoV uses angiotensin-converting enzyme 2 as its receptor. Interestingly, ACE2 is abundant in lung tissue, a protease involved in regulating blood pressure and electrolyte balance. The viral spike protein binds ACE2 via the receptor binding domain, the RBD of the spike. The spike is a trimer. Each monomer can be divided into an S1 terminal globular head and the S2 C-terminal stalk that inserts into the viral membrane. Closer look at S1 reveals the NTD, the N-terminal domain, and the RBD. A top view of the trimer shows how the three RBDs cluster together at the center of the spike complex. Here, in a simpler view of the RBD, we see how two aspects of the ACE2 molecule contact the spike. When ACE2 binds the RBD, the S2 stalk of the spike then brings about fusion of the viral and cell membranes and thus mediates entry of the viral RNA into the cell, and so begins infection and virus replication. Although the SARS pandemic subsided by May of 2004, it shocked the world, leading to concerted efforts to explore and discover other coronaviruses that might be out there and threatening people. Indeed, two new coronaviruses were discovered, NL63, an alpha coronavirus, and HKU1, a beta coronavirus. Both new viruses, like 229E and OC43, cause common cold-like sicknesses. For the next few years, the sense was that coronaviruses were behind us. Who could have imagined what was yet to come?